Perfect.
I am so excited to have you on this podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm just trying. There's an ad came up in the middle of my thing here. Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm so stoked. Thanks for having me.
So before we start, do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, perfect.
I think we're good.
So I've watched a couple of your runs. I watched your Sochi competition, and I also saw this really amazing documentary that was done about you with a couple of your guides. I think your mom was also on there. It was just an amazing job that they had done of capturing what it was like to compete as you. And it made me so excited to do this interview with you because I think that your perspective is just amazing.
Oh, no, thanks. I'm stoked you got to see the documentary. We actually just launched that last winter at some point. I want to say around
it was only a couple months old.
March. Yeah, it's only been out for a couple months now, and it's been it's been getting a lot of really good feedback. So I'm super stoked and just so grateful to have had the opportunity to do that with Whistler and Telus. And they did a really good job putting it together. But I got to give a huge shout out to the editing team because they killed it.
So did you have GoPros stuck to your helmets? I mean, how did they get that footage of you?
Yeah, we did lots of it with GoPros, and we worked with just a couple videographers actually throughout like 8-10 days of filming, and pretty much lots of it was GoPro, and then lots of it was just 2 different camera angles, and just working to get decent shots of each line.
Yeah. Well, it was beautifully executed, and it got me really excited to do this interview. So I'm really excited to be able to just tell your story because you are the first Paralympian that I've had on this podcast. And I just think that you, plus your disability, plus the select sport that you have chosen, make this story of yours incredibly unique and interesting.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. I'm honored to be the first Paralympian. That's sweet.
So let's just go back a little bit and tell me about prior to age 8.
Yeah.
What was life like?
So I grew up north of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. It's a little more of a township than a town, but it's Goulet River, Ontario. And we commuted back and forth to Sault Ste. Marie every day for school and whatnot. But we spent a lot of time playing outside, and we're pretty heavily involved in motorsports just from a super young age. My dad grew up, racing kind of everything with a motor growing up, and that kind of transcended onto us as we grew up. So, lots of snowmobiling and dirt biking and fishing on the weekends, and just a really outdoorsy, little super kind of rural family. and we had gotten involved in actually go-kart racing. I think I was probably 7 years old, down in Michigan. So Sault Ste. Marie lives right on the border, so it made it super easy for us to jump across the border and go over and race go-karts on one weekday per week in the summertime. And we just spent a ton of time playing outside. And then, once I turned 8, life kind of changed a little bit.
So in the documentary, you were talking about how you started to not be able to see the board and the television, and you started having to get closer and closer and closer to be able to see anything. When did you realize that was happening?
Honestly, I didn't really notice. It was my teacher more than anything. I was sitting in the back of the class, and over a 2-month span in my grade 4 year, I believe, I was sitting in the back of the class and I was struggling to see the chalkboard. So I asked the teacher if I could move up a desk. And after a couple of weeks, I'd gone from the back of the class to the front of the class. And then another week or 2 went by, and I slid my desk forward, and I was sitting right, underneath the little chalk rim on the chalkboard, and I was staring up at it. And I think at that point, my teacher called my parents and just said that, I should consider going to get my eyes checked I might need glasses. And I'd previously gone to the eye doctor maybe 4 or 5 months beforehand. So it was a little bit of a shock for my parents. So we went and got checked up anyway. And within a couple months, my vision had deteriorated a fair amount. And, at first my eye doctor almost didn't, really realize what was going on. And it took them a long time. They never had seen my disease in particular, or, had dealt with anything like that in the past. So it was more so like, hey, has any of Mac's friends just gotten glasses? Maybe he wants some glasses, or is he just trying to follow a trend? And so we took another couple of weeks and then went back to the eye doctor again, and my vision had deteriorated a little bit more. So from there started the long diagnosis process. We went down to Toronto and Sick Kids and spent some time just trying to figure out what was going on. And all said and done, I ended up diagnosed with Stargardt disease, which is a juvenile form of macular degeneration. And it's taken all my central vision and left me with 6% in the peripheral.
Yeah, I saw that statistic. So straight ahead is completely black. Where do you start to see?
So it basically, the best way I can describe it is if I kind of hold my hands up, kind of right in front of my face, and I touch my thumbs to my nose. That would represent the size of my blind spot. And then from there on the outside, I can see my peripherals, but it's just, very much lack of detail and clarity for the most part. So when I'm looking off on the horizon, I can see the mountains off in the distance, but it's not like I can see any, characteristics of different lines or, avalanche paths or anything like that from here.
So at what point did you start skiing?
I actually skied from a super young age. We had a ski hill probably 15 minutes away from my house. And, it was nothing crazy, but it was enough for us to, get out as a family. Night skiing, it was super cheap, and it allowed us to get out and do some fun things throughout the winter. And it was, I think, probably 300-foot vertical, one chairlift with a couple of street lights. And so we go once or twice a week, just in the evenings after school. And I think I probably started when I was 3-4 years old. And that was just kind of recreational, something fun. And after my vision started to deteriorate, we started realizing that maybe racing go-karts and that sort of deal wasn't going to be, a viable option for the future. So we started looking into sports for visually impaired athletes. And it was more my parents than me. I was just along for the ride. But they were, on the hunt to try and find something that we could all do together and continue to play outside as a family. And, over a little bit of time, stumbled across skiing. And originally we had looked into Nordic skiing because there's Brian and Robin McKeever. Brian's a super decorated Paralympian and also had the same disease as me. So we were looking into the Nordic side of things. And we're like, oh, well, why don't we go do the same thing that he's doing? And my mom ended up getting a phone call from the athletic director for the Para-Alpine team at the time. And I guess just he had seen an article and somehow had heard that we were racing go-karts before. And a lot of that transcends into ski racing, and just asked if we'd ever be interested in ski racing. And, this is in 2000, I don't even know, 4 or 5. So we weren't, seeing the Paralympics and didn't know anything about Para-Alpine or parasport in general for the most part. But yeah, got a couple videos sent to us of some of the VI athletes that were currently with the Canadian ski team. And it looked like a lot of fun. So we joined our local race club at Searchmont in just north of the Sioux. So joined the race club and raced able-bodied for, I think, 4 or 5 years, just kind of bouncing around Northern Ontario and, building fundamentals of skiing and ski racing and learning how to, ski race basically. And yeah, after I think it was 2011 season, I was getting old enough where I was able to start competing in I guess Para-Alpine events. And my vision had deteriorated enough that I could start skiing with a guide, or I should have started skiing with a guide. And my brother stepped up as my guide, and we bought a set of radios online and spent that whole season training with the local ski club and trying to figure out how we could ski together and jump in a course at the same time. And yeah, after a full season, we thought we were ready to go out and give her a whirl with the Para-Alpine crew and see where we stacked up against the rest of the Canadian athletes. And we ended up going out to nationals in Kimberley, BC, and we had some better results than we thought we were going to have of the Canadian Para-Alpine team right away. And kind of from there, it just started snowballing. We started training with their development program and bounced around North America the next season and just, immersed ourselves in the world of Para-Alpine skiing and just got familiar with the whole thing. And I think we raced our first World Cup the following season after that. So 2012-13 was our World Cup debut. And from there, it just kind of snowballed for the last 10 years.
That's amazing. So can you walk me through what a guide does?
Yeah.
I mean, how much are you actually relying on that individual?
So for me in particular, so there's 3 categories of visually impaired in skiing. So there's a B1, a B2, and a B3. And a B1 would be your least sighted classification. It's for athletes that are totally blind. And then the B2 would be your 4 to 5% vision range. And then you're like IB and B3. So I'm the most sighted of the visually impaired athletes. So I can see enough that I'm not as much needing the left and right and know kind of as much feedback that way. It's more so Tristan or whoever's guiding at the time. Tristan's my current guide, and they're calling terrain changes, different changes in snow conditions, different combinations in the course, and more so just kind of giving feedback of where we are in the course so that I can have as much information as possible in order to try and lay down a clean run.
And then talk me through the radio communication. I mean, how frequently are you getting commands and changing the way that you're going down? I mean, is it constant or is it just when needed?
It's pretty constant, just staying communicating back and forth. It's a lot more, between every gate or 2 gates, we usually have cues. We do a inspection before a run and take a look at a course and get to know every bump, roll, and know where we need to be on in certain sections of the course. So he's pretty much providing that feedback that we had talked about in the inspection the whole way down, along with relaying, stuff that might have changed since inspection, like holes in the snow and stuff that happens without or throughout deterioration of a course while it's being, ran ahead of us.
So is there any terminology, like, for example, shorthand that only the 2 of you understand in that communication?
Yeah, it's definitely, that's something that just is one of those things. It's like a constant work in progress. We spend a lot of time just figuring out what kind of information I need and how do we make it as short and sweet as physically possible, because in a speed race, when you're doing upwards of 110, 120k an hour, by the time he says it, we're already there. So it's very much just like, quick cues that we've, been using for years, and it started, and, it works. But, we're constantly messing with new things. And as my vision deteriorates more and more over the years, I start needing more information or different information. So it's, it's constantly evolving, just terminology that we're working with.
So how many guides have you had from the time that you started ski racing to now?
Long-term guides, I've been with my brother. I trained with my brother and raced with my brother from 2011 until 2016. But throughout that 5 years, he was injured a fair amount. So I'd skied with our backup guide, Rob Femi, on and off for a fair amount. And then after my brother retired, I skied with Jack Leach from 2016 to 2018. And he's out of Calgary, and we had a blast together for 2 seasons, bouncing around the world. And then as soon as the Paralympics were over, Jack retired and moved on to school, and we were looking for a new guide. And Tristan has stepped up to the plate, Tristan Rodgers, and I've been skiing with him for the last 3 years. But in between and that, in between all of that, there's been quite a few people stepped up to the plate for one camp here, one camp there when people were hurt and that sort of deal. But 3, 4 kind of long-term guys.
Is there any kind of prerequisite to be a guide?
Yeah, just like ski racing ability. A guide for me has to be someone who is a really strong skier and someone that can be very consistent on their feet. So not somebody that's super loose and checkers or records kind of mentality. It's a lot of fun, and I love that aspect of ski racing. But I need someone who's just very consistent, someone that can um, be able to multitask a lot, because not only are they thinking about what they're doing, they're skiing, they're relaying information back and forth, and then we just have to be able to get along off the hill as well, because we spend a heck of a lot of time together throughout seasons, and just I've been super fortunate over the years to just always land with really great dudes that are a lot of fun on and off the snow, and just become part of the family.
So they train with you. I mean, how much time do you spend off of the snow with that individual?
A lot. We spend a ton of time off snow. So if you think about how much time we actually spend on snow daily, it's not very much. A couple hours a day, and then so like if we're on a training camp on snow, we'll train say from 7:30 or 8 a.m. until noon, and then we get back, and we're usually rooming together. So we get back, get changed. We have a dry land session in the afternoon, plus physio and stuff. So on the road, we're pretty much together 24/7. And then, in the off season, we all centralize here in Whistler and train together throughout the summer in the gym. So we're together a lot.
And then can you talk about adjusting to the new normal as your vision continues to deteriorate?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It's just a work in progress, and it almost happens in the background, like subconsciously in a way. It deteriorates slow enough that my body and my brain just kind of compensates and makes it work. Adjust little things. And over the years, for me, along with my vision deteriorating, with losing more detail and that sort of deal, I've been fighting issues like light and stuff like that. Changes in light are starting to have bigger effects on what I can see and what I can't see. And yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like a constant evolution. You're always learning. You're always trying new things, seeing what works and what doesn't. And it just kind of keeps you on your toes. You got to be paying attention to everything and all the little details, so that we can figure out the best way possible to kind of keep progressing.
In that documentary, your trainer was quoted as well, talking about how you have an insane proprioception system. You just innately know where you are. And I would assume that that is because all the rest of your senses are overcompensating. But is there anything that you specifically practice in order to better fine tune that process?
I think I test a lot of that just to how I grew up and what I do outside of ski racing. I spent a ton of time as a kid, on dirt bikes and just always doing stuff that was you had to be very aware of what you were doing, where your body was. And then from dirt bikes, I did a lot of biking over the years. A lot of started off as a little kid at the BMX, playing around at the skate park, and then now living in Whistler and um, you know, started off mountain biking as a little bit of a cross training sport, but always have been super interested. And over the years, it's evolved to something that I'm almost equally as passionate about as I am with skiing. And so I think just finding different ways to challenge myself off snow and outside of skiing is allowed me at least just to become very aware of what's going on when I'm on my feet and knowing where I am in the air, on the ground, and kind of everything in between.
So, in those few seconds where you are not making contact with snow, every time you jump or you're going, I don't know, you get just a little bit of air and it just kind of throws you off.
Yep.
What what goes through your mind at that point when you stop making contact with the ground?
Well, for the most part, like I'm usually pretty good in the air, and I don't get stressed out or kind of panic for the most part. Um, and in ski racing, you're very much planning for jumps because they're not very high, but they're very long flights for the most part. Just because you're carrying a lot of speed. And then just I think training it a lot off snow, like riding downhill bikes, and I spent a lot of time in the backcountry snowmobiling and free skiing, and jumping off cliffs and cornices and whatever I can for the most part. So I think the more time you spend in the air, the more comfortable you are. But for me, I think it's just trying to stay centered and trying to make sure I come down on my feet and not any other way.
So a lot of the athletes that I've interviewed for this podcast credit visualization for how well they end up doing in their sport. How does that
Yeah.
work for you?
For me, like visualization is a huge part of my sport. Um, just ski racing in general, tracks could be very long, up to 2.5K long. Um, and you need to, in order to have a good run and know where you are on the track, it takes a lot of practice to know and be able to remember a full track and know where every bump, jump, roll, and every blind gate is. But over time, it's just something you practice and practice and practice. And for me, it's even more important because when I am taking a slow run, I can inspect and look at everything kind of up close and get an idea, and then I just kind of build a mental image of what that track looks like. So even if communication does get messed up, or there's lots of times where radios disconnect, and we're just kind of out there fending for myself. I follow Tristan and use kind of every bit of body language that he puts off. But sometimes you don't end up having that radio communication. So just being able to build a really good mental image of that track allows me to at least hopefully be in the right spot at the right time, and just kind of gives you a little bit more of an advantage when it comes to race time.
So there was one thing that Tristan said in that documentary. He said, "The one thing that I'm focused solely on is not falling." And I just thought that that was so interesting because he's going down ahead of you, and anytime he falls, you not only lose track of where you are because you lose contact with him, but he also kind of potentially puts you in danger. Does he not?
Yeah, it's cool when guys fall for the most part. It's in ski racing, like within turns, you have a lot of G's pulling the other direction. So when you do crash, you end up out of line very quick. So it's not too much worried about hitting him or anything like that. It's sometimes you end up with a little bit of debris on the track between gates kind of breaking, or in the past, my not as much Tristan or Jack actually, but my brother and I kind of progressed together in ski racing. So we were both learning at the same time, and there was a lot of crashing and and falling along the way. So I've hit skis and whatever not, and it can be a little bit dangerous, but for the most part, you end up very far out of line. Um, and when a guide falls, it's the same as if an athlete falls. It's just an immediate DSQ, and we're back up to the top and try her again.
So, in the event that a guy does fall, what happens to you? Do you continue down or do you stop where you are?
No, we have to stop where we are. Usually, if a guide falls, it's just automatic disqualification. Um, there's not really much you can do. We both have to cross the finish line. We both have to go around every gate. So, it kind of just doubles the risk, I guess you could say. We have to both be able to lay down a good run and be able to stay on our feet.
So, what is the process of building camaraderie with a guide? I mean, obviously you had your brother when you were little and progressing through the very beginning of learning how to work with a guide. But once it stopped being your brother and you started getting kind of random individuals that you didn't really have any kind of communication style with, What was that like trying to build up that trust with essentially an entire stranger who you are putting your life in the hands of?
Honestly, a lot of it's just winging it and going day by day and lots of trial and error. But a lot of people ask, like, is it very hard to trust somebody? But as a visually impaired athlete, you don't really have an option. It's either you trust the person in front of you or you're on your own. So you can build trust really fast if you think of it that way. And no, lucky enough, it's always just I've always gotten along really good with my guides, and everyone skis a little bit differently, so that takes a little bit of time to get used to and adjust to. But at the end of the day, you can learn a lot from different styles of skiing. So take a little bit with you from each guide, and yeah, just kind of it's a lot of, I think, patience and just being open minded and okay with learning new things, along with taking the time to actually teach the new guide what I need in order to be successful, and vice versa. So it yeah, it takes a little bit of time, but usually one or two camps, and we'll kind of get into the swing of things, and then we just kind of feed off positive momentum and keep trucking forward.
So do the guides that you've worked with work with other people prior to coming to you, or are you like the very first time they're experiencing being a guide?
I'm usually the first time. I'm usually their first time. So normally they're ski racers, and either with the provincial team or just athletes that weren't gonna be able to continue on or to ski racing as a career. Getting working with the national team and stuff, it can be very expensive, and making your way up is very time consuming and hard on the body. So athletes that are just on the verge and are kind of done with the sport is usually where we find them, and kind of give them a little bit of shift mentally and the opportunity to keep skiing and come hang out on the para circuit for a bit.
So when you're looking at the competitions that you do, is there one thing that you are mentally preparing for?
um yeah, I guess there's a couple things that you can really think of. Like, for sure, you're constantly training to race. So you're building a race routine from the first day you're on snow every year until the end of the race season. And you're trying to stay consistent on that to pretty much have all your ducks in a row every day, so that there's not really a huge difference between a race day and a training day. Um, we always say train to race and race to train. Um, and that's something that is really important for me, especially, to be able to have as many similarities as possible, so that when it comes to race day, you're not overcompensating or stressing out about little things. And then, honestly, after a race, it's a lot more just going back and looking at your race runs and seeing what was good and what was bad, and what you can take from that run to put down a better run the next day. So lots of rolling through video and that sort of deal, and just seeing what we can change to be faster or ski stronger. So it's other than that, it's pretty much straightforward. You go in, kick out of the start, and try and be the fastest one to the bottom every
So when you do get to the bottom, what thoughts are going through your head?
day. It depends on the track. Um, Sometimes, lots of the time, it's pretty squirrely. The runs that are pretty loose are the most fun. So you come down just kind of pumped full of adrenaline and just having a great time. And some runs you come through and you're thinking about the mistakes you made, and when you look at the time, you see where those mistakes, how big they were and what they affected on the clock. So there's definitely mixed emotions lots of the time. Sometimes you're thinking about things you could have done better. Most of the time you are, right away, especially for me, when I don't get to see the time right away. By the time I wheel over the timing board, I have enough time to look back on the run and think about things I could have done better. And Tristan and I talk right away, and we're like, oh, this was good, but this could have been better, and vice versa. And but that's about it for the most part, until we get to look at the timing board, and then from there we decide whether it was good enough, or if it's back to the drawing board.
So at age 15, you were already competing in championships and World Cups. Do you think that that cemented you within the sport and helped propel you forward? Or do you think that that set you up for lofty goals?
Um, I think you could say a little bit of both in a sense. Growing up, you know, racing World Cup was pretty cool, and I got to evolve kind of with the sport over the years, and for that I'm super grateful. You know, even getting the opportunity to go race World Cups when I was 14, 15 years old was a was a blessing in its own right, and we were just stoked to be there and stoked to be around all these phenomenal athletes. And I think being able to train and race alongside the best in the world at a super young age allowed me to just be able to take in as much information as I possibly could and ask lots of questions to lots of different athletes from lots of different countries, and and was just super interested in the whole environment. And from there, we ended up having some really good results throughout those first couple seasons, and it definitely had set up some lofty goals. But for myself, I've never been much of a results based skier. And still not. When I look at a season, I want my main goal is to come out of that season happy and satisfied with the way we skied. And if there's medals, that's great, and if not, that is what it is. Obviously, we're not there to go out and we're not out for a fun little free ski, but we want to make it as fun as we can, and that way we can keep ski racing and enjoying it, and not turning something you love into something that's just a grind 24/7. And so the goals come and go for sure. And I'd say as we progress in sport, and as you start achieving the goals that you set for yourself or that have been set for you through with Alpine Canada, we set goals ahead of time, and watch them results based. But I think for me, it's always just been about having fun and trying to go fast.
It's so funny that you say that you're not results based. You have won so many Paralympic medals, and you're like, nah, I'm not results based at all. It's fine.
Yeah, I think honestly the success is a byproduct of just enjoying the sport. Um, like for me, ski racing is just super fun, and it's a great time. When days are good, there's lots of bad days out there too, but you know, the good days definitely trump the bad ones when it comes down to just going out, and in reality, it's a blast.
So let's talk about 2014 because it seems like that was a stellar year for you.
It was a very interesting season. It was a lot of fun right off the bat. We were racing really well. My brother and I were building up for the games. But my brother had also been battling with some issues with a couple herniated discs in his back, and he was on and off snow a lot. So he spent most of the lead up to the games off snow, just trying to rehab and recover. And then we had a really good training camp leading in, and about a week and a half before the games, he ended up tossing his back out again. So the team and I and my brother, we all sat down and tried to come up with the best option. And I guess at the end of the day, we ended up kind of resourcing to a backup guy just to be safe. Rolling into the games, it can be dangerous skiing with a back injury, and we ended up, BJ stepped along off to the sidelines and let Rob come in and come in for the Paralympics. And it was weird. It was super depressing because my brother and I had trained so hard and for so long just for this, this one race series. But at the same time, it was a lot of weight kind of lifted off our shoulders when it came to, the pressure that we had built from us, and external pressures from media and that sort of deal from, the previous success we had in the seasons prior. It went from, going in with these very results-based goals, and that's usually, it wasn't how I normally kind of operated, but there was a lot of pressure. And I think after my brother had gotten hurt and stepped aside, it was a lot easier just to take a big breath and say, all right, we're here, we're gonna go out and see what we can do. And just have fun with it. And I think that's what kind of propelled us into rolling out with 2 bronze and a gold at the end of the day.
Yeah, I saw somewhere that you had 10 days between the time that BJ got injured and the Paralympics.
Yeah.
Where did those 10 days put you?
Mentally in a very weird state, but we were so lucky to even be able to go and compete. I was 16, and at that time was the youngest athlete for Canada, and we were just stoked to be there. And I think for me, it turned into a very big reset. Thank God I was skiing with Rob, and Rob was such a great dude to be around, and such a confident person, and he just radiated positivity. So we just jumped in, got through our downhill training runs before opening ceremonies, and we had a pretty good buildup of speed. So it just we just fed off that good momentum and jumped in with 2 feet and just figured lay it all down and see what happened. And I think after the first day, we just slowly kind of built on that positive momentum all the way through the next 7 days of competing.
So you ended up with 3 Olympic medals from that. I mean, I would consider that a huge win, especially considering all the adversity that you guys were up against.
Yeah, we definitely were very, very stoked leaving. It was great being able to have my brother right on site as well, and he can come up to the athlete center with a guest pass, and we could hang out and just share the experience together, which made it super great. But leaving, for sure, we left with our heads held high, and just super proud to be able to compete and race for Canada and come home with some medals, and just a very overwhelming sense of pride, I guess you could say, coming through the airport on the way home.
So at what point after you got home did you start preparing for 2018?
It was pretty seamless. I had stayed home that summer for the 2 seasons prior. We had centralized in Whistler and stayed out in Whistler. So the following year, after 2014, we'd stay home for a little bit of the season. But in 2015, we had World Championships here in Canada for the first time. So we were very much gearing up for that right away. So it took a little bit of time to celebrate and be excited, but at the same time, it was very much just reshifting and redirecting this really good momentum that we built coming out of the games towards the next season rolling into World Championships. So we didn't have a heck of a lot of time off, and we pretty much just got home, celebrated, and then put the nose back to the grindstone and went to work.
So how early are you planning on starting to prepare for 2022?
We're in it. We've been giving her for the last 3 years now, pretty much nonstop. It's been a very interesting 3 years with everything that's been going on in the world. And, as I get a little bit older and a lot more wear and tear on my body, I spend a lot more time, rehabbing these days. I feel like I'm not as bendy as I was when I was 16, but, it's been quite the grind over the last couple of years. I've been actually, ironically, dealing with the same issues that my brother had been dealing with before 2014. So it's been 3 years of just trying to keep my back stable and in a good spot, along with fixing old injuries with knees and that sort of deal. So it's been pretty crazy, and then throwing COVID on top of that, it's been it's been outrageous. So we've just been rolling with the punches, but trying to get as much time as we can on snow. And Alpine Canada and our staff with Canadian Para-Alpine crew has been so good in giving us the most opportunity possible just to get on snow and get as many miles in as we can. So we're here, we're doing it. We're been grinding in Whistler all summer and trying to get on snow as soon as we can to start our build up here.
So a couple episodes ago, I had an alpine skier, a ski racer from Team USA, and
Okay.
he is currently recovering from a tib-fib fracture. And he was just talking about the fear of injury that just innately comes along with ski racing. Is that something that's constantly in your head?
It is for sure, but I think, ski racers in general are kind of aware of the risk when you jump into a start gate. Um, it's not a sport that's very easy on the body, and there's a very high risk, high reward. Um, you can get hurt, and that's just a part of the game. And it comes to be a thing that's just subconsciously there. And I think mentally you have to work very hard to be able to get past the fear of getting hurt. Um, because it's not rehabbing is not fun. Anyone who knows, anyone who's been hurt, you break your arm, break your leg, and or have lots of soft tissue damage. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, and mentally it can be very draining. So um, I think just finding ways to keep having fun and stay positive is the best way to you know continue continue the grind, get back to you know your 100% or whatever your new 100% will be. Sometimes you don't ever come back fully, but you get as close as you can, and then it's just improvise and adapt and get back to her.
So what was it? Well, let's take a step back. What was it about you that Team Canada fell in love with?
I don't know. I don't know. That's something we'd have to ask them. Um, I don't. I think we just really put in a lot of work, especially when we were younger. My brother and I, and maybe they'd seen how in it we really were, right from the beginning. But I think I don't I don't even know. We built a very good relationship. Our team is very much like a family. Um, so over the years, we work together. There's highs and lows, and we've had a lot of success together as a team. Not only myself, but the rest of my teammates are so good and so fast, and it's just a blast training alongside them.
So, have you ever worked with a sports psychologist? I mean, does Team Canada employ someone to work on the mental game with you?
Yes, we work full, like, I guess, for as long as I can remember. Pretty much my whole 10 years on the circuit, we've been working with the sports psych, and just building good mental habits and working on different little things that make the big difference. And yeah, I think without working with John, I don't know if a lot of us have needed him over the years. For sure, we've been up and down, and he's just someone that can keep us on the right track, or at least help us get through whatever's really been chomping at our heels. I think with different crashes, and then just going through ups and downs. I think in sport, lots of athletes go through high and low points just mentally, and I think it's super important to have someone at least alongside to help coach you through it.
So, how does your relationship with the mental game play along with your just your daily life? I mean, as your eyesight begins to deteriorate and continues to deteriorate, what role does that have on your mental health?
It definitely has a big impact, and it's always something that I think about. So for me, doing as much as I possibly can while I can still do it is a big thing. Um, and like, I'm not saying that I won't be able to do it, but while I can do it to this capacity, I'm going to try and do as much as I can and see how far I can push myself. And I think that's something that keeps me very mentally in a good headspace, being able to push myself, have fun, scare myself as much as I can, and just enjoy playing outside. So, over the years, I've definitely transitioned from just being a very hardcore ski racer, and someone that just was so stoked to be between the fences and going fast, to now I'm looking into every different aspect of skiing and trying to spend as much time playing in the backcountry, and just pushing myself down kind of new avenues, and finding different ways to stay motivated has been a huge thing. So outside of skiing, playing on riding mountain bikes a ton, and snowmobiling has also been a huge impact. So finding balance, I think. But just kind of consistently pushing myself as much as I can has been kind of the saving grace throughout the whole thing.
So when you look at how the Para-Alpine team has treated you, is it a positive experience? I mean, do you feel like you're appreciated for what you've done?
Absolutely. Um, I couldn't be more grateful to be surrounded by such an amazing crew of people. Right from top to bottom, our support staff, our coaches, our techs, our teammates, everyone's been so awesome throughout, this long road. And, I've seen it evolve from, I was the new kid on the block and I was just I was the little kid on the team for sure. And the team was a lot older of a crowd. And I had a lot to prove to nowadays where I'm still just trying to prove myself every day. But I'm now the most senior athlete on the team when it comes to being a veteran. It's been pretty crazy and it's been a lot of fun over the years, and I don't think I'd change a thing. The Everyone's just so great to work with, and we really are just a really big family.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it makes it a heck of a lot of fun just to you know know that you're getting up and you might have a 20 or 30-hour flights to get to where we're going, but we're all just going to go out and have the best time ski racing together. It's pretty hard to beat.
So now that you've seen, I mean, you were the first, like the little kid coming in and looking all at all of your teammates who are so much older than you, and now the roles are reversed. What are you telling those newer initiates or the newest members of your team that are coming in and are kind of wide-eyed and unsure of how to hold themselves?
um I try to stay as open as possible, and kind of like an open door policy whenever anyone's mentally having issues or just trying to figure things out, try and just lead by example in that sense. But um at the same point, I'm constantly still trying to prove myself and let the younger guys are coming in hot and heavy. So got to stay on top of my game, which has been a lot of fun. It creates like a lot of that kind of camaraderie you build with a big brother, or vice versa. You're always trying to beat the other person and stay on top in training. So it's been pretty cool. Like the younger guys just seeing how the sports evolved and seeing how our teams evolved in the last 10 years. It's become a very high performance program that these younger athletes coming in are super determined and so driven that it radiates energy and always really good vibes to everyone on the snow is just pushing so hard, and it's really cool to see.
So you just mentioned something that makes me laugh based on how many medals you have. You said you just mentioned the fact that you're not done. Like you're not ready to let someone else pass you. You're not ready to just sit back. Will there ever be a point where you say my career has been unbelievable and I'm ready now?
I don't know if I'll ever be done, and maybe transition from ski racing into other aspects. I've been having a lot of fun pushing myself in sports that aren't really recognized as a sport for people with disabilities. So being done in a career sense of ski racing, I'm sure one day I'll get to that point. I've always said that if I ever get to the point where I have fewer good days than bad days, or if it's starting to become too much of a job, I don't want to ruin the sport that I've fallen in love with and have spent so much of my life doing. I don't want to ruin it for myself. So if I ever get to that point, I'm sure, but until then, I'm gonna try and push as hard as I can and make sure I can, try and keep up with the younger kids as much as I can.
So, can you walk me through a competition day? I mean, what
Yeah,
time do you wake up? What time do you and whoever your guide is work through the process of going down the hill? I mean, what does that day look like?
for sure. So Tristan and I'll get up in the morning, usually pretty early, depending on where we are and what time a race starts. It's usually between 5:30, 6:30. We're up in the morning. We usually have a morning warm up right kind of as soon as you get out of bed. So get up, get warm, and just get the body moving, get the blood flowing, and then grab a quick bite to eat, come back. If we're right on snow from the hotel, we'll be getting dressed, or pack up all our things to drive to the hill, and then by the time we get on snow, the first thing we do, we get our first two warm up runs in, and it's usually pretty slow going, doing lots of drills and just getting balanced and feeling good on our feet, and then from there we'll go into an inspection where we'll, slide through the course very slow and just look at everything and come up with a game plan where we want to be in certain areas and find what key points or key sections in the course are going to make or break the race run. And then from there, we get down to the bottom and then go through a full visualization and top to bottom to talk about the course and make sure that we're on the right page. And then, if not, if we have a very short amount of time till start, we usually get up and try and get another higher speed warm up run in and just try and get good feelings. For me, it's really important to feel good on my skis before I get into a start gate. If I don't have, a couple good turns linked up in a warm up run, it's hard to be in the right mindset, or at least in the right state of mind dropping into a race run. So find those good couple turns, and then you kind of just come into a lull and find ways to distract yourself for a little bit until 10 minutes before you start, where we're doing a solid warm up again and kind of getting all the little things done, getting make sure our skis are set right, and then it's crazy. Before you know it, you're in the start gate, you have 30 seconds, you go through a really quick course report with the coaches. They talk about, how things are deteriorating, what we talk about inspection, if it's working, if it's not, and then it's go time. We pretty much drop in and hope for the best at that point.
That's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
is there anything when you're in the start gate, 30 seconds away from launching yourself down this hill, that is going through your mind, like, for example, a pitcher would before every pitch?
For me, the 30-second is to be able to go through really quick and look at, like, in my head, just look at, I guess, imagine myself in each key section of the course that I know that I need to be in the right spot. And then usually it's pretty light. We're joking around for the most part and just having fun. And you can plan as far ahead as you want, but in a race course, very rarely do things go to plan. So you're going to make mistakes, and there's lots of improvising and adapting to those mistakes. And I think if you plan too hard or overthink things, it's really easy to get caught. So lots of just hold her wide open and hope for the best is is the best mentality for me, and it seems to be working.
So when you were inducted into the Sault Ste. Marie Walk of Fame in the same year, 2014 was a great year for you.
Yeah, it sure was.
I mean, who said we're going to induct you into this Walk of Fame? And was it to you surprising, or was it kind of expected based on what you had achieved?
No, it was definitely very surprising, and I don't even remember. I think there was the mayor at that point and called and was just, "Hey guys, we want to induct you into the Sault Ste. Marie Hall of Fame." I think in 2014 was a really great year for Sault Ste. Marie, as Brad Jacobs and the curling boys are also from the Sioux. So for a small town to come home with 2 gold medals from the Olympics, it was really cool. And I think growing up in a small town has always been really special. You have a very good, solid community foundation, and it's always really good to be able to go home and visit and see everybody and find out how stoked people are on just the fact that we're competing, let alone if we can come home with some medals. They're over the moon, but at the end of the day, they're so supportive no matter what. And I think that's what's always gives you a peace of mind. At the end of the day, you come home and no matter what, you have a pretty solid crew behind you.
So did they give you any kind of like welcome parade when you came back with your first gold medals?
Yeah, it was actually crazy. We came home to the airport and I can't even tell you, there were hundreds of people in the airport, all friends and family, and just as many people as they could jam in there. It was in there. It was pretty amazing. And I think to come home to that, it was very, very special for my brother and I to see how many people were paying attention and were just, celebrating with us.
That's amazing to have an entire community behind you.
Oh, it's so great. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm so proud of where I came from, and it's it's truly is for me. It's still the greatest place on earth. Be able to go home and just be with friends and family, and such a sweet community, and not to mention it's just a really beautiful part of Canada. So it really is a cool place.
So what are the pressures on you? Are they more external from media or fans or sponsors or Team Canada? Or is it more you just trying to beat the former you?
Um, I think you just said it really well. There's there's definitely a lot of external pressures from sponsors and within the team, and within the media, and those are all things that for myself I've been very good at, realizing that there is the external pressure, but being able to you know still focus on the task in hand, and at the end of the day, um, I'm going to go out and do the best I can, and I've been fortunate enough to surround myself with the community and with sponsors and people to that's good enough no matter what. If we come home with a medal, everyone's just as stoked as if we came home and crashed 5 times. So the external pressures have never been a really big issue, and internal, I've always there's always going to be a little bit of internal pressure from yourself trying to be better and do better, and that sort of deal. But at the end of the day, I think for me, just making sure that I can come out satisfied with the way we skied, and happy, happy with the whole experience. I think that's the biggest goal, and something that I try and stay true to.
So, what is the one thing in life? And I'm going to make you only choose one. What is the biggest motivator in your life right now?
Fun, 100% fun. Um, it's and like fun can be broken up into many things, but being able to just go to bed happy and like you had the best day ever. It's uh it's a pretty great feeling, and I'm going to try and do that as much as I can for the rest of my life. But it's yeah, it's there's something different when you come home and you just you feel like a 6-year-old kid that just had the best day ever. And and if I can do that every day, I'm going to try.
That is amazing. So, I do not have any more questions for you. Is there anything that you think that I've missed?
No, I don't think so. Maybe I could just, say to younger athletes that are, thinking about getting involved in sport, or thinking about just going out and pushing themselves in any way they can, to go do it and go have fun, and, just enjoy the little things. It's a pretty special thing to be able to, go out and compete for yourself, or for, if you ever do want to go compete at a higher level, and race for Canada, or vice versa. Just go out and have fun, and enjoy.
I think that's a great way to end this interview.
Sweet.
Is there any way that I could talk to Tristan?
Absolutely. I can definitely set you up with his contact information.
I
Um,
would love that. I think that would be amazing to add to your story because I'd love to hear his perspective as well.
oh yeah, for sure. We can definitely get that sorted.
Perfect. And then I think that your episode is coming out in 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how I schedule, but either 2 or 3. So
Cool.
I'm really excited to put this together. And is there also a way, just one more little homework assignment, can you send me a picture of you,
Yeah,
either in
just
action
a, like a
or
headshot.
a good headshot, or if you have like a skiing picture that you really like that you use for like all of your profile pictures, I would like that as well.
For sure, I could send a few over, and you can pick from
Awesome.
whatever works for you.
Awesome.
And yeah, just before you and when you do launch, like if you send me all the information, I can post it up on
Yeah,
social
for
media,
sure.
stuff like that.
Yeah. Awesome. And then just a last question, is there anything that you want to include or anything that you want to say before I click end meeting?
No, thank you. Thanks for taking time to chat and being interested in my story.
For sure. I think that most people will be interested in your story. I'm excited to put it together and learn more about just the process that you've been through, because I think that this interview has been so unique in terms of the people that I've previously had on. And I'm just so thankful that you were like, sure, I'll talk to you.
Absolutely, anytime. Always keen.
All right. Yeah, I mean, if I could get Tristan's contact info and then a couple pictures of you to choose from for social media, that would be great. And I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Bye. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye. Take her easy.